Hello there, this is An Architect Goes to Law School. Today in contracts class we'll be discussing changes to the contract. Design and construction projects change over time. Not even considering the design changes that occur between schematic design, design development, and construction document phases, the design may change even during the construction phase. Some of these changes to the design and the construction impact the contracts between the project owner and the architect, and the contract between the project owner and the contractor. Whether the proposed changes impact the construction schedule, time, design or construction costs, money, or scope of the project, changes to the contract are necessary. Depending on when the changes occur in the design and construction timeline and who is involved, there are different standard methods of modifying design and construction contracts. First is the Additional Services Offering, ASO. This may have different names depending on an architecture firm's naming conventions. There are two basic ways that an architect will provide the project owner with an ASO. One reason for an ASO is prior agreement. That is, in the prime contract between the architect and the project owner, the scope of basic services will be documented. Many owner-architect agreements then address the issue of what will constitute additional services. If the owner wants an architect to engage in a service that was not identified as such in the original contract, an ASO will modify the original contract to provide for an added architectural fee and possibly extend the design schedule. One example of this is the inclusion of interior design work that was not originally contemplated by the parties. A second reason for an architect to provide the owner with an ASO is if the project's circumstances change, necessitating additional work on the part of the architect. This may be due to a project owner's decision to modify the scope of the project, or if an unforeseen condition during construction requires additional work on the part of the architect. One example of this is if structural members are discovered during remodeling work, the architect may have to reconfigure the interior walls and spaces. Whether by a change in plans or conditions, the ASO is a method of modifying the contract between the architect and the project owner. When such changes to the project are needed, the architect might then prepare a document called Architect's Supplemental Instructions, or ASI. Other names for this are addenda or bulletins, depending on whether there's a contractor already contracted to construct the project. Whichever method is used, ASIs, addenda, and bulletins are drafted by the design team to notify the contractor and subcontractors of changes to the project. These changes, in turn, may prompt the contractor to draft a change order, or CO. Similar to the ASO's modification of the contract between the owner and the architect, a CO indicates a proposed modification of the contract between the owner and the contractor. A proposed change to the project may affect its schedule, cost, or scope, or a combination of those. These are negotiated between the owner and the contractor. When the owner and contractor can't agree to a CO, the owner may issue what's called a Construction Change Directive, or CCD. Depending on the contract between the owner and the architect may sign a CCD as an initial decision maker during the construction phase of the project. Feel free to comment, ask questions, and suggest topics you'd like me to discuss. Next up in contracts class, we'll talk about remedies for breach of a contract. Thank you for watching An Architect Goes to Law School.